The Market of Sorrows. Daniel Cross stepped off the docking ramp, his boots clanging against the metal grating of Vash 9. The station reeked of rust, burnt oil, and something sour that made his stomach twist. Trade drones whirred overhead, their scanners blinking red as they hovered over the crowds. Daniel's eyes scanned the bustling market, his hand instinctively brushing the worn hilt of the small plasma cutter at his belt. He had no intention of using it today. He was here for credits, not trouble. The crowd surged around a central platform, and Daniel found himself drawn forward, curiosity piqued. The auctioneer's booming voice carried across the metal concourse. Live stock. Rare delicacies from the outer rims. Who will start the bidding? Daniel's stomach sank. In cages stacked like crates, he saw alien creatures, lizards with scales glinting in the dim light, slimy amphibians with bulging eyes. But it was the final cage that stopped him cold. Two figures crouched together, their fur matted, tails curled around each other in fear. They were humanoid, but their feline features marked them as Nairi, cat-like ears, elongated pupils, and slender bodies with dexterous fingers. Their wide eyes were filled with terror. The auctioneer sneered. These two Nairi girls, barely grown, tender and sweet. A delicacy for the discerning palate. Who bids first? Daniel felt a hot surge of anger. The crowd laughed and jeered, imagining them on dinner plates. He clenched his fists. He had survived wars, starvation, and betrayal across 3-star systems, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of innocents treated as merchandise. He checked his credit balance. Barely enough for fuel and a ration pack. Yet the image of the trembling sisters seared into his mind. He couldn't walk away. His old warm memories flickered, a village burned, a child screaming as he had tried and failed to save her. He would not let it happen again. The bidding began. Each offer was higher than he could afford, and he felt the weight of hopelessness pressing down. But when the price skyrocketed to the last of his credits, something inside him snapped. He thrust his hand forward, voice ringing above the crowd. I'll take them. All of it. A hush fell. The auctioneer's eyes widened. Then he barked, sold. To the human. The crowd muttered and shifted, some in shock, others in disbelief. The Nairi sisters froze, unsure if their fate had improved or worsened. Daniel stepped forward, ignoring the guard's questioning stares. The seller tossed him a datapad. No returns, he said with a smirk, the words almost casual, though they carried the weight of finality. Daniel nodded, already knowing the stakes. The cage door clicked open, and the sisters flinched instinctively, hissing softly at the human who had just purchased them. Daniel crouched slightly, keeping his hands visible. You're free now, he said gently. His voice was calm, but firm. For a moment, the girl's mistrust lingered. This human might be worse than the others. But hunger and fear softened their stance, and they edged toward him, hesitant but curious. Don't run, Daniel added. I won't hurt you. He lifted the cage and guided them off the platform. The crowd began to murmur, some taking bets on how long it would take before the meat fled. Guards followed at a distance, suspicion written across their faces. Daniel ignored them. He had no credits left, no plan. Only a determination that they would not return to cages, not under his watch. As the trio slipped into the back alleys of Vash 9, the smell of smoke and oil gave way to damp stone and trash. The sisters clung to each other, tails flicking nervously. Daniel carried the weight of their fate, every step a silent promise. You are alive because I chose to fight for you. That won't change. Above the station, lights flickered against the night sky, and Daniel knew that somewhere, someone would come looking for them. But for now, they were free, and that was enough. Strangers in the dark. Daniel led the sisters through a maze of narrow alleys behind the market, their small footsteps echoing against the metal walls. Every shadow seemed to twitch with unseen eyes, every distant clang a potential threat. Lyri, the older of the two Nairi, kept her ears flat and her tail swishing nervously, while Mina clung to her sister's arm, wide-eyed and trembling. Daniel handed them a pair of nutrient packs he had stashed in his jacket. Eat, he said. You'll need energy if we're going to get out of here alive. Lyri sniffed the pack, suspicion clear in her gaze. You bought us, she said cautiously. Why? To sell us again. Daniel shook his head. No, I won't let anyone hurt you. I can't. He paused, staring at the grime-streaked alley ahead. Memories of his past crept up unbidden. A village burned to cinders, screams piercing the night. A child he couldn't save. The guilt had followed him through every system he'd visited. He wouldn't let history repeat itself. Mina's eyes brimmed with tears. They'll come back for us, won't they? Her voice trembled like the last leaf on a dying tree. They might, Daniel admitted, glancing over his shoulder at the dimly glowing street lights. Which is why we have to be smart. Keep moving. Stay quiet. Don't trust anyone you don't know. The sisters huddled closer, their small forms pressed against him as he guided them through a labyrinth of docking bays and service corridors. Daniel noted every corner, every shadow, memorizing escape routes and dead ends. Vash 9 was a station built on secrets, and he intended to use every one of them. They paused in a dim corner of an abandoned maintenance bay. The faint hum of the station's life support systems was the only sound. Leary finally spoke. Why are you helping us? Humans usually only look out for themselves. Daniel smiled faintly, though it didn't reach his eyes. Maybe, but some of us, we don't forget what it feels like to be powerless. You two reminded me of someone I couldn't save. I won't fail again. For a long moment, only the hum of machinery filled the silence. Then Mina whispered, "Where are we going?" Daniel knelt to their level. There's a Nairi enclave in another sector. Safe. People who'll protect you. He felt the words weigh heavy. Getting them there wouldn't be easy. His ship was barely functional, fuel was limited, and bounty hunters were probably already scanning for them. Leary's eyes narrowed. They'll kill anyone who tries to take us there first. Yes, Daniel admitted. Which is why we need to move carefully. Fast, quiet, smart. He scanned the alley, calculating the next steps. The sound of distant boots echoed from the station's upper levels. Guards, or worse. Daniel's pulse quickened. He motioned for the girls to follow him into a narrow service tunnel, the entrance obscured by stacks of crates. Inside, the air was damp, smelling of rust and oil. Daniel set down his hand on Mina's back and whispered, "Stay close. Don't make a sound." The sisters exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. In that moment, a fragile trust began to form. They had no choice but to rely on this human who had risked everything to save them. Daniel's mind raced. He had only a rough map of the station and a minimal supply of credits. Every decision carried weight. Every step might mean life or death. But he couldn't stop now, not when freedom was within reach. From the corner of his eye, he caught a glint of movement, a patrol droid scanning the tunnel with red eyes. He pressed the sisters against the wall, holding his breath. The droid paused, then moved on. Daniel exhaled silently, the tension leaving his shoulders just enough to feel the strain in his wounds. As they emerged from the tunnel into a quieter sector of the station, Daniel allowed himself a brief glance at the sisters. Leary's ears twitched, alert but not panicked. Mina's tail curled tentatively around her own legs, her wide eyes finally showing a flicker of hope. Daniel's jaw tightened. The station was dangerous, and their pursuits were relentless. But for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Purpose. He whispered to himself, more promise than words, "I'll get you out. Alive. I swear it." Above them, the distant hum of the station continued, indifferent to their plight. Yet in the darkness, the smallest spark of trust had been lit, a fragile alliance that might just carry them through the perils ahead. Flight through the stars. The freighter's engines groaned as Daniel Cross guided the second chance out of Vash 9's gravity well. The station's lights shrank behind them, replaced by the infinite black studded with distant stars. Leary and Mina crouched on the floor of the cargo bay, still tense but safe for the first time in days. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow and checked the ship's controls. Fuel levels were dangerously low, and the hull had taken a beating from years of rough jumps and makeshift repairs. "We're not out of danger yet," he murmured, more to himself and the sisters. Mina's voice trembled. "Will they come after us?" "They will," Daniel said, keeping his tone steady. "Bounty hunters, station guards, anyone who wants to collect a credit. But we have a head start, and I know how to hide a ship. Leary's ears flicked back, ears twitching in suspicion. And if we get caught? Then what? Daniel glanced at her, seeing the fire beneath her feet. Then we fight. Together. He began plotting their jump through the outer rim, using lesser-known smugglers' routes that bypassed official checkpoints. The sisters watched as he manipulated the holographic star map, learning more about ships and star lanes than they'd ever known. As the freighter slipped through the void, Daniel finally allowed himself a moment to relax. "Tell me about your colony," he said. "I want to know what we're fighting for." Leary hesitated, then spoke quietly. "It was peaceful until the raiders came. They burned homes, took whoever they could, left the rest dead. We were hiding when they grabbed us. Most of our people," her tail curled tightly around her legs, eyes distant. "Most didn't survive." Mina's small hand found Daniel's sleeve, gripping it tightly. "I don't want to die," she whispered. "You won't," Daniel said firmly. He felt the weight of his promise, the memory of the child he hadn't saved pressing on him. Not this time. The freighter shuddered. Red lights flashed across the control panel. Daniel's heart sank. A fleet of sleek, black pursuit ships had locked onto their signature. Bounty hunters. Fast, lethal, and merciless. "Buckle up," Daniel shouted. He yanked the controls, sending the freighter into a sharp evasive maneuver. The ship tilted dangerously as he used every trick he'd learned during years of hauling contraband and fleeing hostile systems. Leary's eyes widened. "I can't help," she said, springing to her feet. Her reflexes were sharp, tail balancing her as she leapt toward the weapon console. "Cover the ray." Daniel gave a brief nod, relief mixing with admiration. The girls were no longer helpless passengers. They were allies. Mina stayed by Daniel's side, handing him tools and recalibrating the shields under his instructions. The battle in space was chaotic. Laser fire streaked past, pinging off the hull. Sparks erupted from damaged consoles. Daniel's freighter lurched violently, forcing him to make split-second decisions. Yet with Leary's help and Mina's quick thinking, they managed to outmaneuver two of the pursuers, slipping through an asteroid belt where heavier ships couldn't follow without risking destruction. After what felt like an eternity, the second chance emerged, battered but intact. The three of them were breathing heavily, eyes wide from the adrenaline. Leary's ears twitched nervously, tail flicking. "They'll regroup," she warned. Daniel nodded. "I know, and we'll have to take a shortcut, the Shattered Run. It's dangerous, unstable, but it's the only chance to get you to safety." Mina leaned against the control panel, exhaustion etched on her small face. "What's the Shattered Run?" Daniel gave a brief, wry smile. "A nightmare of broken wormholes and collapsing star lanes. Many ships enter, few return. But if we make it, no one will follow." Leary's gaze hardened. "Then we make it." As the freighter surged toward the first unstable jump point, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. The risk was immense, but so was the reward. 2 lives saved from a cruel fate, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to redeem the ghost that had haunted him for years. He glanced at the sisters. They had survived the market, the alleys, and now the void. Together, they were stronger, and no matter what awaited them in the Shattered Run, he would see them through it, alive, free, and unbroken. The last jump. The freighter trembled as Daniel Cross guided the second chance toward the Shattered Run. Space here was fractured, a chaotic swirl of collapsing wormholes and distorted star lanes. Sensors flashed warnings constantly, but there was no turning back. Pursuit ships were close, and the Nairi sisters' lives depended on this desperate gamble. Leary tightened her grip on the console, ears flicking anxiously. "I've never seen anything like this," she murmured, tail coiling around her legs. Mina's small hands trembled as she clutched Daniel's arm. "Will we make it?" she asked, voice barely audible. Daniel kept his jaw set. "We have to. Hold on tight." He pushed the freighter deeper into the unstable field. Hull plates groaned, sparks flew, and the ship jolted violently. Every decision was a matter of life and death. One miscalculation, and the second chance would be crushed between collapsing star lanes. Red lights flashed as a sensor pinged incoming ships, Scavenger raiders, opportunistic predators drawn by the chaos of the run. Daniel's teeth clenched. They won't leave us alone, he muttered. He adjusted the thrusters and plotted a tortuous path through a narrowing channel. Let me help, Leary shouted, moving to the weapons console. Her tail flicked sharply as she aimed improvised energy blasters at the approaching raiders. Laser bolts lanced through the chaotic void, striking one of the black ships. Sparks and fire flared, a satisfying hit that gave Daniel a fraction of breathing room. Mina handed Daniel a stabilizer module, her tiny paws fumbling but precise. You'll need this, she said. Daniel connected it quickly, feeling the freighter shudder less violently with each adjustment. The chase intensified. One raider's ship broke formation and dove directly at the freighter. Daniel swerved hard, grazing a collapsing star lane, feeling the hull scrape against a shard of distorted space. Sparks exploded along the port side. An alarm screamed. Brace yourselves, he yelled. The sisters pressed against him, Leary's sharp claws gripping the console as her tail lashed with tension. Mina's wide eyes were filled with terror, yet determination flickered there too. Together, they adjusted shields and fired at the pursuers. Daniel's mind raced. He could feel the exhaustion clawing at him, the years of past failures threatening to weigh him down. But the determination to protect these two innocent lives burned brighter. They were no longer helpless. They were allies, fighters, and survivors. With a final burst of speed, Daniel guided the freighter through the narrowest passage yet. The distorted star lanes twisted around them like molten glass. One wrong move, and they would be shredded. The pursuing raiders tried to follow, but the unstable wormhole collapsed behind them, sealing the path. Silence fell for a moment, broken only by the hum of the freighter's engines and the sisters' ragged breathing. Leary uncurled her tail, her ears perked cautiously. Mina hugged Daniel's arm, whispering, "We made it." Daniel allowed himself a small, exhausted smile. "Not yet," he said, scanning the star charts. "There's one more jump, and then the Nairi enclave." The final wormhole was narrower, more turbulent, but free from immediate pursuers. Daniel adjusted the freighter, focusing every ounce of skill, every memory of navigation, every reflex honed from years of survival. The ship trembled violently, hull groaning under the strain. He took a deep breath and pushed forward. Light and space twisted around them. For a moment, the universe seemed to stretch and crack, threatening to tear them apart. But then, suddenly, the freighter emerged into calm space, an uncharted sector on the outskirts of the Nairi enclave system. Daniel let out a long exhale, shoulders sagging. Leary's ears twitched with relief, tail curling in contentment. Mina's small form collapsed against the console, tears of exhaustion and joy streaming down her face. They had survived. The freighter descended toward the enclave planet, greeted by cautious but welcoming Nairi patrols. Daniel guided them to a landing platform where the sisters' people rushed forward, their faces alight with relief and gratitude. Leary embraced her people, Mina clinging to her side, both safe at last. The Nairi leader approached Daniel, studying him carefully. "Humans," she said thoughtfully, "you are strange. Yet, you are the reason hope survives." Leary stepped forward, offering Daniel a small, intricately carved talisman. "This is for you," she said softly. "A token of thanks. You are always welcome among us." Daniel accepted it, the weight of relief, pride, and exhaustion settling over him. He had spent his last credits, risked his life, and faced death to save them. And now, seeing them safe and alive, he felt the first true peace he had known in years. As he prepared to depart, Mina ran up and hugged him tightly. "Will you come back?" she asked, voice muffled against his jacket. Daniel smiled, ruffling her hair. "Count on it." He climbed aboard the second chance, watching the Nairi enclave fade below. The stars stretched ahead, full of danger and possibility. But he carried with him something far more valuable than credits or cargo, the knowledge that even in the darkest corners of space, a human could make a difference. And sometimes, that difference was everything.